Hey folks, this is Matthew Zachary, and before we get to the show, I wanted to tell you about another show from Offscript Media called The Cancer Mavericks. It's an 8-part deep dive narrative into the very story of cancer survivorship and the movement that started in the United States 50 years ago. This is not a podcast about the disease of cancer, it's a podcast about the people who made it better for all of us. Please search for The Cancer Mavericks wherever you listen to your podcasts and follow so you don't miss an episode. Thank you.
I'm soon going to be launching the Patients Getting Paid online course that will teach you how to get paid because of your illness, not despite it. Are you interested in doing patient advocacy work, but you don't know where to start? Want to learn about how to find online remote gigs or learn to create your own? I wish somebody would have created this roadmap for me. I spent a lot of time and energy and money figuring it all out. I want you to be able to leapfrog over all that stuff and get to the good stuff, getting paid for sharing your story. In my new course, Patients Getting Paid, I'll be sharing my experience and my resources on how to create an income online that lets me take good care of myself. Want to learn how I did it? Want a list of resources, places to look for online gigs, and templated emails with what to say? It's in there. Want to hear about tons of different ways you can actually build a business while taking better care of yourself? It's in there. Want to be included in a database of chronic illness warriors so your contact info can be shared when opportunities for your disease come my way? Then get on the waiting list for Patients Getting Paid and be the first to know when it launches. Sign up now at patientsgettingpaid.com/list. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FUMS podcast, where we give MS the finger. Appreciate you sharing your precious time with me. Today, I'm talking with a woman with MS who's helping other women to thrive with MS. But before I introduce you to her, I want to remind you that we have FUMS merchandise like coffee mugs. Oh, I should have had one here. Coffee mugs, hats, t-shirts, jewelry, face masks, sweatshirts, all the things emblazoned with FUMS on them so you can share your FUMS spirit with the world. Go to FUMSnow.com/shop and wear and share that FUMS attitude. Okay, let's get to our guest. Jen DeTracey is a certified coach and the founder of Women Thriving with MS. In 2010, Jen DeTracey was at the peak of her career as a consultant and professional speaker. After a 3-day speaker tour, she could barely walk, write, or smile. 48 hours later, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. At that time, she thought she would never be able to work again. 10 years post-diagnosis, Jen has figured out how to thrive with MS, and now she's guiding women on how to empower themselves to live life better with MS. She does this through her Women Thriving with MS Facebook page, free private Facebook group, YouTube channel, and her recently launched We Thrive MS membership. Welcome, Jen.
Welcome, Kathy. So great to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. You are quite the powerhouse. So let's start at the beginning, if you don't mind. Tell me a little bit about you pre-diagnosis. What were you doing before MS hit you between the eyes?
Yeah, I love that, hitting between the eyes beforehand. Okay. So one of the things that I became passionate about several years before being diagnosed was running. And I was living in Vancouver, Canada, and which is like mountains and ocean.
Out and about. I can hear you with your out and about. Mm-hmm.
And we did it. There was something called the Sun Run, and we did this training, 10 kilometers, which is about 6 miles,
Gosh.
and I had done it for a couple of years. Yeah.
Good for you.
And I was excited about, doing it. And I found that running became a way to release stress and process things that I may be grappling with. So it was, a really important part of my life. Yeah. So that was one thing sort of on the physical side of things.
Yeah.
And, one of the things, even before MS, there's like things that happen that are amazing, and there are things that happen that suck.
Yeah. True.
And one of the things I had to do, or not had to do, I chose to do it, was I chose to rustle up the courage to leave a 14-year relationship that was toxic to me. And that was tough, but it was
tough.
important to my
Good for you. Congratulations.
sanity. Yeah.
Right.
So
self-care.
Exactly. And, that's the journey we're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I at that point when I left, I was able to get myself into a creative place and really focus on my career in a way that I could get it to that next level. I didn't really, I was like one of those people that just everything took so much time. You look at all those people in the world that are successful and you're like, oh, then there's me.
Right.
And,
right.
And
I
so,
do know.
Yeah, I can relate.
I can.
So I decided, because I was already doing professional speaking. I'm a consultant. My background's in marketing. I used to work in the music business for 10 years and then eventually started my own little mini company.
Oh, how interesting. Jen, you're so interesting.
I am a lover of music, but I cannot sing or play it. So, you got to be on the business side if you can't do that.
Right.
And I had worked for an artist named Sarah McLachlan. Canadian artist. She was
Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah. That tells us our age, because she's kind of the has-been now, but she was big in her day.
I love her, except for that sad song that always plays is it In the Arms of the Angels? And it's always played with those sad dogs that they're about to put down. And maybe that's just in the U.S., but it's so sad.
Yes, that sounds sad.
I'm sorry that's attached to her name in my head. But anyway, but she's phenomenal. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
All good. So I had this idea when I started my business of creating something that tied in with some kind of fun presentation I could do, because I wanted to do more paid speaking, get out and do more. I was doing some things. And so I wrote this masterpiece of a presentation called Get Your Business Rockin' for small businesses. And it was the 5 rock star rules. And I had stuff like at the beginning, I'd play a song and I'd talk about one-hit wonders. And then the audience had to guess, like, what is that song, And it was like Bad Day. The song Bad Day. I had a bad day.
Yeah, I remember that from Grey's Anatomy. That's where I heard it.
And that was like a huge hit. So people would like yell out the name. And anyway, so I started, this presentation had a lot of traction, and it kind of mushroomed into something bigger. And I was hired by a radio station to do some touring, and things got very busy for me. And, it's funny how when you close one door, another door opens up in your life. And I find that to be true ongoing, no matter what it is, right? And so what happened is I was on fast forward a couple of years, I was on a 2-day speaking tour or 3-day. And I'll talk about that. We're going to jump into that a little bit later, actually, I think. But, so that was like just huge. And I didn't even realize, as someone who had never made that much money in my life, I didn't realize how much money I was making, because I had these big training days that I was doing, full day training days. And in Canada, there was a grant. So businesses were applying for them and people were hiring me, and I was getting paid a big whack of money to go out and do full day trainings. Very cool. And I loved it. It was like this step-by-step process that I designed. So I was really feeling that I had come into my own. Yeah. And this was like at the age of 44. We're not talking 30 or 20. This is at 44 years of age. And also I had my stepdaughter, who's like my own daughter. Like, she's been in my life since she was 3. She's got red hair like me. She's amazing. She's currently living in Spain. Her name's Nira. We had during this, because there was this ending of a relationship, and a lot of crazy stuff happening at that time, I had really invested in just healing anything that could be healed with this lovely daughter of mine that I cared for so much. And she ended up at a certain point coming to live with me. And so I felt like between my career and my creativity and my daughter, and just like I'd get my daughter out running because she was feeling depressed. I'd be, come on, let's go running. It feels so good. And of course, she was like way taller than me and ran faster. But, it was really a very beautiful
nice time
in my life.
Yeah.
Very
Sounds
special.
Very nice. If only you could have pressed pause.
Yeah.
Right? Because then, okay, so life is good, cooking right along. Your career is kicking. You've got life by the balls. And then what happened?
Yeah, good question. There's always that question, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I had been asked by this radio station in northern, in British Columbia is the province. You guys have states in the US and other countries, they have provinces too. So I've been asked to go back on tour with them again. It was like a 3-day tour. So crunched into 3 speaking engagements or 4 things in 3 days. Crazy.
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks before, I started to notice how exhausted I was. And I thought, I must be like working too much.
Yeah.
But I had just come back from holiday 2 weeks earlier. So I was just mystified. Yeah. What's going on here? And even on my holiday, I was having to nap for hours at a time. I'm like, gee, what's happening? And then one day I picked up a pen, like those big kind of novelty pens. They're huge.
Yeah.
And, you used to have one in your house to laugh about it.
Yeah,
and
right.
Maybe if you can pick it up, you can write with it. And I was writing down someone's phone number because back then I still had a real phone.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this pen's really hard to use. I didn't realize it was my hand. I just thought, it's the pen, right?
Yeah.
Of course it's the pen. It's
right.
not my
We
hand.
rationalize a lot. Yes.
So I head out on this speaking tour, and usually when I fly into a location, I make sure the room is all set up the night before, but I was like, I could not do anything.
That tired.
I was just like, I thought I'm going to have to get up super early and do that. So I did that, and I did my first one, and then we drove 3 hours to the next location, and I did it again.
You're making me tired with the story.
That was like a big day, right?
Yeah.
And then that night, I was in a little town, and it was sunny outside and beautiful. And I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to run because my energy's so low. I need to get my body moving, So the next morning I got up and I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I go out for a run, and my leg starts occasionally dragging behind me. And I'm like, I thought it was funny. It didn't hurt. So I'm like, okay, this is odd. This is kind of cool.
Right. Oh, God.
Because when you don't know what it is, like, well, cool, denial, cool.
Right.
And so then I did my full day. It was a full day training with the organization, and I had to hide the fact that I could barely write. Like I was taking notes. So I'm kind of like masking that, right? And then the next day, I think that night we drove to the final town of our destination.
Oh my God.
And I was at the restaurant, and I couldn't believe it. Like the food, I ordered the food. I'm so polite, and I'm so like really nice to people, generally speaking.
Right.
And
well, you're from Canada. Isn't everybody from Canada really nice?
Some people are.
I think so.
So the waitress disappeared for a really long time. And I thought, okay, it's fine. She's out for her smoke break. But I was so hungry. And when she came back, I had like this complete meltdown. It was totally out of character. And like, what the heck is going on? Like, I just was like, I had lost it.
Yeah.
I totally lost it. And the next morning, I set up a table at the front of my presentation to hide my leg so people couldn't see it drag.
Gosh.
And then when I was done, I was like, okay, thank goodness I'm done.
Check.
I get on the plane. I fly back. I go to bed that night. I wake up the next morning and my lip is drooping. This is all on the left side.
Yeah.
So I rush off to
Bell's
my natural
palsy.
path. Yeah. Well, I didn't think anything. I'm like, okay, I'm just like, I'm burnt out. Something needs to be adjusted. I just need to be cracked, Yeah. I have a naturopath who's like a magician. He's going to take care of me. So I rush off to my all my respective people, they fit me in. I don't know what happened. Like, it was like that whirlwind.
Stars aligned.
Yeah. And both practitioners, my naturopath and my physiotherapist said to me, Jen, there's something going on around here, like just in the top area, just under the neck, kind of ear between, just at the top point there. I think it's like C3. And I'm like, and they're like, come back on Monday if you need more support. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm just so like burnt out from the tour. I'm not really even thinking clearly. I'm not in a rush to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So now we're Saturday, and a friend says to me, Jen, I was meeting her at a event to go see a play, and I'm walking up to the lineup, and she's like, what the heck's going on with you, Jen?
Oh,
I'm like, Uvina. Yeah. It's like, Uvina, my leg. I told you about my leg. She's like, you need to go to emergency.
Oh.
Yeah. She's telling me that. And I'm like, you work at a hospital. You're biased. You see the resistance, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just like the denial. And I don't even know anything about MS,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I saw a great play. I went for dinner afterwards, and then I said, okay, now that I've eaten, I'll go to emergency, because you cannot go to emergency on an empty stomach. You could be there for 12 hours.
Be there a long time. Good thinking. Good. Yeah. You're a planner.
I am a planner. So they fast tracked me in, gave me a CT scan within an hour. This is probably around 10 o'clock at night, 10:30. And then before I know it, they have moved me into like a holding pen area. Now it's 3 a.m. and I'm next to all these beds with curtains in between. And I'm like, what's going on? So I go up to the nursing station. I say, okay, you've done all the tests. You've done my blood. I've talked to 1,000 people. Everybody's asked me the same questions 20 times. Can I go home now? And she's like, well, actually, we've paged a neurologist and she'll be coming in tomorrow morning, like maybe around 8 o'clock.
Dun, dun.
And I'm like, okay, great. Like, seriously, I was like, okay, sure. Okay. So
you're a very agreeable Canadian.
At that point,
happy and peppy and bursting with love. Okay.
I think naive is
I would have lost my shit, but good for you.
I didn't know what's going on. I just thought, they're taking good care of me.
Yeah.
And so then I have to wait, of course, till noon for the neurologist to come in. She does not arrive at 8 a.m.
Right.
And there she is. And she's so nice. Like, this woman is amazing. And she's just like, well, Jen, you have inflammation of the brain, and we need to get that down as soon as possible. But
yes,
we
please.
want to validate our findings. Shouldn't use the MS word. Want to validate our findings first by giving you an MRI. So we're going to check you into the hospital because, we can't get you into MRI today. And then, tomorrow, hopefully they can squeeze you in. And I'm like, great. And then she said, and I'm going to be your neurologist. And I thought, well, you're a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be your neurologist, but I'll be away for a week. So another neurologist will be taking care of you. And I didn't cross my mind then, I'm going to have a neurologist. Why would I need to have a neurologist?
Right.
And who knows what part of that was the MS, like just, piling up in my brain and making it as big as like, a big, happy, yellow, happy face that's oversized. And so I was admitted to the ward, and the next morning I wake up and there's my friend Uvina, who works at this hospital with a little commuter wheelchair. And she's like, I'm taking you down for an MRI. There was a spot available. I'm like, what?
We all need a Uvina in our lives.
I know. Like,
she was getting shit done for you.
You know what? She
Good friend.
Was in charge of the whole radiology schedule.
Oh, nice.
And she saw a gap. Like, talk about knowing people.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know that this would be a benefit to me.
Right.
So anyway, so I did that. And she wasn't there when I got back. She didn't pick me up and return me. She just delivered me. And then my sister came in on a ferry to meet me, and we were talking. And then 3 doctors came in. They all lined up at the door,
Oh, yeah. That's not a good sign.
The expert and the students.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this was the neurologist that was not the so nice one.
Oh, I'm familiar with those. I'm much more familiar with those than I am the first one you mentioned.
Yeah, thank goodness I didn't end up with this guy. Anyway, he makes his announcement. He validates, yes, you do have inflammation of the brain. And we are 99% sure that it's MS, multiple sclerosis. But we want to do a lumbar puncture to make sure.
Oh, God. The worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I say to him? Because I've already talked to my sister about, I don't know how I knew about lumbar punctures because I really don't know much about MS at this point or anything. I said, well, do you have experience doing them?
Oh, good for you. I wouldn't have had the presence of mind to think of that, but good for you.
And you know what he said?
Oh, I bet. What did he say?
He said, I have 25 years experience, but I don't have time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So he wasn't going to do it.
Mm.
So I told the resident doctor after they skirted out, they're right by the door and then they leave.
Yeah. Right.
Get out as soon as you can, right?
Right.
From the crazy woman who's just taking it in.
Yeah.
And so before that, I talked to a doctor. It was funny because my sister, who is a gabber, like she can talk nonstop. Well, she's silent. Like this is like,
gobsmacked.
Yeah, gobsmacked, right?
Yeah.
And neither of us really know as much about MS. So, I mean, it was a moment of pause.
Right.
That was a good thing, actually. And so I talked to the resident doctor and I said, listen, I will not do an MRI. A lumbar puncture. I will not do a lumbar puncture with someone who has never done one before.
Brilliant. So smart.
I mean, they were looking at putting me down into the radiation place to have someone, be directed on how to do it. But I've heard stories about lumbar puncture not going well.
Yeah, right. That is not one that you want to be teaching on. I understand that has to happen, but
not me.
Not me. Right. I'm with you.
So what happened was the guy, that student teacher came back to me and he said, well, you know what? The neurologist has said he would do it if he can bring students to show them how. And I said, load up the room.
Yeah.
Load up, bring in a truck.
I just want the expert actually doing the deal. I don't care who's in the gallery, right?
Yeah. I'll be naked. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Just like, come on in.
Bring him. Yeah.
And he was good. It was,
good.
I only had a sore back for about a little bit of a sore back for about 2 months afterwards, but the whole process was seamless. Like, no, it was really like, I don't know. Did you have a lumbar puncture?
Uh-huh.
And what was your experience?
Awful. I got that horrible headache that lasted several days and it wasn't good. And I stayed perfectly still, just like they tell you to do. And it just was not, it was not good. It was not good.
Yeah. So these things happen. Right. And so I guess I pushing boundaries without even knowing that I was not following protocol worked out for me.
I just love that you had the presence of mind to ask that question. I was in such this shock and awe. It never crossed my mind. It could have been somebody that worked in the cafeteria doing my lumbar puncture. I never even asked. Like, I didn't ask, are you a doctor? I had no presence of mind. I just was, I was in a fog. Mm-hmm. Whatever. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. Whatever. But good for you.
Hard place with no choice. And this was all happening within such a short window of time, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like 3 or 4 days. And so they put the drip in me.
Yeah.
And the first day was okay. Have you had steroid drip before?
Yes.
Have you ever had that?
Oh,
you know what that's like?
I do, sister. My MS sister. I do know what that's like.
I call that the Incredible Hulk experience.
Yeah.
Because what happens, or at least for me, what happened was, okay, the first day I was okay, but the second day after I had it, I felt like a nut bar.
Yeah.
I was so tired, but I couldn't sleep. It was crazy.
Right. Oh, yeah. My house has never been cleaner than when I had a Solumedrol drip, because I come home and then I'm like, I have so much energy and blah, 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 blah. But literally up all night, which is not good either for any number of reasons. Yeah, I totally get it. And I know a lot of people get kind of the rage, kind of the what is that called? Roid rage?
Road rage, yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I call it the Incredible Hulk because, it's like you've got Bill Bixby, the nice guy that turns into the big green kind of monster, whatever you're going to call him. And that's how I felt. Like I I guess, all my anger, all my rage and everything
came out.
And I told this guy, like, it's the steroids that are messing me up. And he goes, no, it's the diagnosis. But the thing is, I didn't know much about MS at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first night was okay because in my mind, I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking, wow, I've always wanted to be an inspirational speaker and maybe down the road, this might be an opportunity for me. So I'm looking for the opportunity first before all the steroids are pumped into my system.
For you.
And then the other thing I'm thinking is I say to my sister, hey, I've got this insurance policy at home. I don't know if it has MS on it, but could you bring that back to me tomorrow? And when she comes in, the next morning, I'm like, where's the policy, And she gives it to me because I wanted to see if multiple sclerosis was on the list of all the different illnesses. I had just bought this policy 18 months before being diagnosed because I'd left my relationship and I wanted to have some, even though I had been the primary supporter, I still wanted to have some kind of something to back me up because I was single,
right?
Something in case something happened to me as a business owner, right?
Yeah.
So there I was flipping through the list and there's multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, okay, so now I can be an inspirational speaker. And
wow. So what kind of insurance policy was this? Because you all have universal health care up there. So what else did you need? Yeah, well, life insurance and disability insurance and critical illness insurance, those things, unless you work for I was self-employed, right?
If you work for an employer, you might get some of those benefits. So this one is like a payout that you can get up to a certain amount. In this case, it was like $100,000. If you have like stroke, heart attack, this, that, whatever. But you have to, of course, you don't qualify for it after you have something.
Post-diagnosis, right.
It doesn't work so well.
So 18 months prior, you signed up for this.
That's right.
Woohoo.
So I'll just add one little piece to this because this is interesting. I'm not saying my journey with MS in the beginning was horrible. Like I felt suicidal. I didn't want to live. I didn't think I'd be able to work again. I woke up every day with fatigue and went to bed with fatigue. I lost friends. That friend that I talked about from the hospital, she found out about the MRI before I did and then couldn't come talk to me. And our friendship was never the same after that. So, there's like that feeling of loss that happens from losing a friend that you think was like that person that was there for you that couldn't handle it. And the fatigue was just so big at certain points. I could not, I had stacks of laundry and stacks of dishes and getting the dog out was very hard. So it was a very difficult time in the beginning. And I don't know about other people, maybe it's just the grief, but I had this visceral feeling of, I'm going to die. Like logically, I knew I wasn't, but I just felt like I was going to die.
Wow.
I was going to die, or I was dying.
That is a dark, dark place, my friend.
Yeah.
What's up, people? Matthew Zachary here. Let me talk to you about Unraveled, a brand new podcast from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute that gives us hope about the progress of cancer research. And yes, believe it or not, there's actually been a ton of progress. I mean, who doesn't know someone affected by cancer or someone who's donated to cancer research? While that philanthropy is desperately needed, most people who give don't understand what's actually happening in the trenches of cancer research and the impact that has on all of us. It's time to go beyond the headlines with Unraveled. Listen to the stories of doctors, researchers, patients. Learn about the breakthrough science like using genetically engineered T cells to turn a patient's immune system into a cancer-fighting machine. Yes, that really happens. It's not science fiction. These are stories of the people who continue to fight for better research, better cures, and better care for patients, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Follow Unraveled from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are
you tired of wasting time making trips to the grocery store, waiting in checkout lines, and overpaying for groceries every week? We thought so. Luckily, there's a better way. Misfits Market takes the hassle out of grocery shopping by delivering fresh, organic produce and sustainable groceries straight to your home at prices up to 40% less than traditional grocery stores. You'll get access to exclusive weekly savings on peak season organic produce, high-quality meats and seafood, and sustainably sourced pantry staples like snacks, pasta, and grains, plus keto-friendly and gluten-free foods. Do your weekly shopping in just minutes with Misfits Market, all with no service fees, membership fees, or commitments. Become a free member today and get $15 off your first order through September 30th. Just go to www.misfitsmarket.com and use code GROCERY15. That's promo code GROCERY15 for $15 off your first order. Misfits Market is not available in all 50 states. For more info, visit misfitsmarket.com.
So how did you go from that to starting Women Thriving with MS?
Yeah, I'm going to jump.
That seems like a big leap.
I know it is a huge leap. Well, one thing I did was, because when I did 6 months later receive the money, I realized that I would do something that I always wanted to do, to put my focus towards a project that would be meaningful to me. And that was before Women Thriving with MS. But it was like I wanted to put together a book from my business side of things. I needed something to focus on that would take me away from ruminating about how crappy my life was, and how my career was like just kind of crushed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to do that. And the other thing I started to do was I started to go to silent retreats. 10-day silent retreats.
Holy cow, like literally don't talk at all?
Almost, pretty much. It was a little different because it was at all denominations are welcome, but it was a Christian place, a beautiful place. And what you do is you come in and you don't talk, but you have an hour a day to talk to I don't know, call it a spiritual guide, to unpack what's going on for you. So you have that, and you eat meals together, but you don't talk. Oh. And then there's a gathering once a day where there's kind of like an experience. So basically there's two hours a day where there's you might say a few words, or you know, that kind of thing. And I did that several times because I felt like I needed to reinvent myself. Like I just had to ask myself, everything had been so career focused in my life, and I couldn't run anymore. And I just needed to kind of ask myself the question, who am I now? Who am I now?
Yeah.
Wow. It's just so hard to figure out when we are attached to labels and have lived a certain lifestyle where you're working, in my case, 12-hour days, which, clearly wasn't working for me.
Right. And then everything shifted. So now you needed time to catch up.
Yeah.
Well, good for you for recognizing that and participating in something that was helpful to you. Being silent, as you can imagine, this chatty Kathy, that might kill me. I don't know. I couldn't do it. That would be horrific for me, but good for you for recognizing something that would help you. And it sounds like it obviously did, because look at all you're doing now.
You would be surprised. And that whole thing is a journey in itself, in that 10 days. You learn so much about yourself. And I think after doing it several times, I said to myself, each time I come away with something different. And so the last time I did it, I'm like, I wonder what it's going to be today. What am I going to come away with from this retreat? And I was laying on a Reiki table and receiving healing touch, actually. It's kind of like Reiki. And I heard this voice, and it said, you can do something more purposeful. And I took that really to heart. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm hearing this voice, divine download. And what am I going to do about this? Right. So I went out, there's the labyrinth, and I walked the labyrinth and I went up to my little desk in my little room, and I started writing. And I realized that what I wanted to do was to create a community for women to discover how to thrive or live life. It wasn't defined yet, live life better with MS, because many of us live with fatigue, brain fog, and different things. And it's like, you're thrown back into the world. The medical system doesn't have something. There are support groups, but they're not always a good fit for everybody.
Truth.
As I discovered, I garnered a lot from it initially, but I was more about looking to the future in my life and not living in the past, or at least trying to do that. And I just didn't fit into the support group.
Yeah.
I want to create something. And so that was a long 6-year journey to get to even where I am today. And I started doing YouTube videos to document my experience with Mavenclad, because that drug there was very little information from the patient's perspective on it. So I started to YouTube on that. Now I get a lot of traction from those. But my goal was really to get into mindset stuff. How can we, because you can do diet, you can do exercise, but if your mind isn't in the right place and you're struggling, then what does it matter? Everything else is just, it just doesn't really support you, right?
That's true. That is so true.
So from there, I started a women's book club group for MS. I threw it out just on a bunch of different Facebook groups. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of women interested. I had like maybe 30 women interested. So and they were in different parts of the world, which makes it more difficult to orchestrate.
Meet up. Right.
Yeah. But I picked a book. The book was Pema Chodron's Take a Leap.
Oh, okay. So not an MS book, but something else more about mindset.
Yeah. Freeing ourselves from old habits and fears. Because I think in MS, fear really ramps itself up in a huge way.
Yes. Huge.
And so I did the book club group, and I found that women were really excited about being a part of it. Some people would show up at first, and then, some people wouldn't show up anymore.
Fall off, sure.
But I realized that was like a good beginning for me to kind of go into that field. And I was studying to be a coach because I wanted to learn that as well. And so just all of that happened. And then one day I started, after the book club, I started a Facebook group. Most people start a Facebook page. No, I didn't follow the rules. I started a Facebook group for women thriving with MS. And I thought, I'm going to create a community of women. And I know some women wouldn't resonate with that because they say, well, if I have MS, I'll never thrive. Well, let's set the bar on what thriving is. To me, thriving is living life better with MS. And we all have our own bar. Thriving is...
Yeah, it means something different to different people. Sure. Yeah.
Like being able to look forward to getting up in the morning, to be able to tap into what you have control over versus being focused on all the things you don't have control over.
Yeah.
So really looking at that. And so we did that. And then more recently, I launched the We Thrive membership for women.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And it was a founding member launch, just happened. And, we've got a waiting list and people can get onto that.
So exciting. So tell us about this membership. What do you find when you join?
Good question. So number one, what's important is the community. There's a community hub, and there's a connection that you have every 3 weeks with other members, and I facilitate an experience. And every 6 weeks, we go through something. It could be building a new habit system. It could be breaking through some barriers. Right now, we're doing the One Food Challenge.
Oh,
where we assess over the course of a week what food might be irritating our body.
Interesting. Okay.
And then we pick that food and we eliminate it for 4 weeks. And basically we track it to see, to make sure we commit to it. Right. Then we have a check-in.
So you have a little accountability in this group.
Accountability, yes.
That's important.
Check-in. Right. And then at the end, after 4 weeks, you integrate the food back in and you see, does your body freak out or does your body sing?
Oh, I like that. And I love the community aspect of that. I mean, because you could do that. We all know we could do that on our own, but having a community, for accountability and also to see what other people are experiencing, I think that would make me want to do it more and keep me truer to it. honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I hear time and time again about women in Facebook groups that feel lonely or disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And another reason I wanted to bring this community together is for those women that want to, because not all women want to, they get to be buddied up with somebody as an accountability friend.
Oh,
and
nice.
so they get that person checking in with them, each other once a week. And then that switches on the next 6-week cycle. So if you don't like somebody, you don't have to work with them again. But we also have a special process in place. And so those that want that support get it as well. So it's
nice.
It's really, and I want, I'm working on this now because this is like pretty new, is fun is really important to me. So trying to not have the heaviness. I do, if we don't work on habit systems, if we don't work on something, we don't really benefit, because if we do what we've always done, we get what we've always got.
Right.
So we do need to do the work, but it can be fun and it can be pleasurable to see the results from that.
And it is fun if you're in a group doing stuff. Mm-hmm. It brings the fun into it, I think. I think community is so important. I could talk about that for a long, long time. That's phenomenal. That's so exciting. I love this concept. And I'm sure that the women inside your membership are loving this concept too.
They're having a pretty good time. Yeah.
That's great. I love it, especially with the emphasis on fun, because that, MS is not fun. So to have a place to go where you're learning something, you're making some important changes and getting the support in that, and you're having some fun, that's not often offered to us. So I love that. I love this idea. I'm so glad you started this. So where do people go if they want to learn more about you or about this membership and everything that you've got going on?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Kathy. Mm-hmm. They can go to womenthrivingwithms.com.
Okay.
Womenthrivingwithms.com. That's the website, and
excellent.
That's where they can find it.
Super. I will, as always, put in lots of links and whatnot in the show notes. So make sure you go to FUMSnow.com/podcasts, and all of the show notes will be there for you. Well, Jen, thank you so much for sharing your story and your program with us. One last thing before you go. We here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. If you wouldn't mind, would you please lead us in our salute to this beast on 3? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Excellent. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
Oh, that was a good one. That came from your toes. I liked it. Excellent. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. Take good care.
Thanks so much, Kathy. It's a pleasure. Bye now.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.